right, guys, welcome into another episode of the Queen City Soccer Show. Today's episode, very special episode. We are doing our season preview, and we have two very special guests. I'm Cole Godfrey, and I'm joined as always with my host, Level Up Luke. Luke, how you feeling, man?
Feeling great. Feeling great. Just, we actually have some news to talk about. Some Charlotte FC transactions, some players coming in, some players leaving. This feels like the most fulfilling offseason that we've had yet.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And like I said, this is going to be our season preview, so we're going to be discussing how we feel about Charlotte's upcoming season, where they're going to finish, some players to watch out for, and all that good stuff. But before we get into that, let's introduce our special guest. We have the Charlotte Soccer Show on with us today, Danny and John. How y'all feeling, man?
What's up, boys?
Feeling great, Cole. Feeling great. Sorry, Johnny. In classic Charlotte Soccer Show fashion, I stepped on Johnny. My bad. Sorry, Johnny.
What's up, guys? Good to be on the show. Pumped to talk about Charlotte FC.
Yeah, good to finally have you guys on here officially. I know we've been talking about it for a while, but once the season starts, things get busy. So this is as good a time as any.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for the welcome. Thank you for the invite. And I know my man Johnny. If you know him, you know he loves the game of golf, and so he's no stranger to a good foursome of guys just getting together and shooting the breeze and talking.
The question is who's the high handicap here, Danny? That's how we going to figure out the game tonight.
Yeah.
But let's do it. Yeah, I mean, Zaha is official. What a signing, guys! It's crazy.
It's Zaha, dude. I mean, come on.
We kind of talked about it on our last episode. There were some things thrown around today that I kind of want to touch on with, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on. Tom Bogert reporting that some championship sides from England came in for Big Pat and were requesting his services, but the club shut those down. I want to throw this out there to you guys before we hop into this. I asked Luke this on our last episode, but Danny and John, I seen this floated. I think it was The Athletic. I need to go back and look and see who actually wrote the article. But if Charlotte does not sign a DP in this window, is there a possibility that they're going to wait, see how Pat does this first little half of the season here, and if he bags 10 goals, just to say, before the summer, is there a chance where you see Big Pat get that DP deal in the summer?
It's a great question, and I think the answer would be yes, for sure. I mean, that's something you'd have to consider at that point. It's smart to keep the slot open. They've been Pat's agent has been negotiating with Charlotte FC basically every single time he's bagged a goal. I mean, the price tag keeps going up and up and up. And when you're negotiating like that, what that means is that goals equal money. So yeah, I mean, if Pat's bagging a bunch of goals, the agent's going to expect a DP contract for his guy. And if not, he knows now there's teams abroad. Championship football is legit. Josh Sargent is over there playing for Norwich right now and playing incredibly well, making his case to get into the United States men's national team. But Pat knows that he needs to, get out there, score goals, play well, and if he does that, he's going to have some leverage on his side.
Yeah, it kind of pissed me off. I saw the news from Top End 90 the other day that Ghent was poking around for him. And, of course, the reactive fan base is freaking out and, oh, no, they're going to sell Pat. And I was like, it would make no logical sense to sell Pat right now because his value is only going to increase as the season goes on. With his current performance level, our expectations are through the roof. And as of right now, yeah, he looks like an up-and-coming star, but he puts a full season under his belt and gets, a lot of goals, and that price tag is going to multiply. Significantly. So it would make no sense to sell him right now.
I don't care about the price tag. I care about the goals. I care about what he's going to bring to Charlotte FC. I mean,
Same.
The speculation on what profit we might make him from someday is definitely best left to those outside this club. Because I'm thinking to myself, well, the only we're not our hesitancy to sell Patrick Archibong right now is not about the fact that his price is going to go up. It's about the fact that if we were to lose him, we wouldn't have anybody to be the number 9 because Carroll's already gone. And also, this is the guy we want as our striker, getting on the end of passes from Zaha, from Pep, from Westwood, and Liel, and everybody else.
Well, I think that's a good transition. We're talking about a season preview. So if we look at the position groups, we're talking about the forward group here with Patrick Ajiman. You got Liel Abada, you got Zaha. What do you guys think of the group of forwards that we have in the starting lineup and then the depth going down versus the last few seasons?
Go ahead, Danny.
It doesn't
What do you think?
feel as deep, but it feels stronger than it has ever been, I guess. But it maybe not as deep as it's been, but stronger than it's ever been.
Really strong, right? Like DP level strong, right? Like what you guys just say? We talked about Ajimong being a potential DP, right? So does that mean we have 3 DP forwards right now?
Yeah, quite possibly. And then Vargas waiting in the wings. You got Toklimati, Tavares, Brandon Cambridge. There are some options behind him, but it does feel a little bit thinner than it has in the past.
Yeah, I mean, think about. I mean, these guys didn't necessarily work out, but at a time you had like Enzo Capetti and Karol Swiderski up top. As a 1-2, that's probably better than Ajimong and Toklimati or whatnot. But it depends what Zaha's going to do. If Ajimong has to sit for a match or whatever, or there's some rotation, you can imagine Zaha just playing a straight number 9. Whereas with Pat in, maybe Zaha's a little more supporting striker or winger potentially. So
Hey, we saw it already in the preseason highlights. I mean, Zaha was on the ball, and he fed Pat. Pat, one touch onto his right foot, goal. I mean, that's the offense in a nutshell.
that's the formula.
Zaha is going to be on that left side. I think that's where that pass came from, and I think that was that small little window we got into. That combination was exactly what we're going to see between those two when we're on the pitch together. I think where they're going to be playing.
Well, Pat getting ahead on the ball was refreshing. That's something we haven't seen enough of yet in his short time with the club so far. But do you guys think that Zaha is going to draw a lot of attention from opposing defenses that would allow more space for Liel Abada, Patrick Ajimon, and maybe, actually increase the productivity and the creativity of the offense? Or do you think Zaha is going to be more of the one-man band on offense?
Oh, no doubt he's going to draw the defense's attention.
Yeah, one-man band. I mean, like, does he want to be the front man for sure?
Is he doing the thing where he's like stepping on the thing to make the drums and playing the cymbals, and all that stuff? Yeah,
it's like the guy from Ted Lasso when
Zava.
It was
Zava.
No, I'm talking about the band. When
yeah.
Robbie Williams, he couldn't make it to the show, so Ted finds the one man band. And is that what Zaha is?
Great pull. Yeah.
I don't know if that's what Zaha is.
Wasn't that the guy from Mumford and Sons that they got in that role?
Yeah, it was exactly right. Yeah, he did a bunch of music for that show.
He did. Yeah, he did the theme song.
Real quick, guys, I want to ask y'all this. I seen Caleb Adams. He tweeted something earlier that got me to thinking, and it was pretty much asking how the fan base felt as far as if there was any more signings for Charlotte FC. What position should it be, and should it be a DP level, or should it just be kind of like we did with Eric Williamson? Or, and my take on that was, I mean, the only thing I could see really is us getting another left back just because we're thin. I know, Danny, you were just talking about Zaha, kind of playing up front if Pat needs to drop off or has to take a game off or something like that. But if Zaha is on that left side, who would be behind Patrick? Would it be Yuri Tavares? Would it be Brandon Cambridge, you think? Or do you think Cambridge tends to go out more towards the right and back up Liel Abada? Or how do you feel about that? And also, where do y'all see a need for this team, if there is any, to go ahead and add some depth?
And Danny, this is all you. I mean, you got your finger on the pulse. Yeah, like players available and people to plug and play. Like as far as if we were going to add somebody, I think you've got your finger on the pulse of like realistically what the addition could look like.
Well, I think that realistically the addition should be a DP number 10. And if you can, then you've got a guy that would probably replace Pep Biel in the projected starting lineup as it stands now. And that's not a slat on Pep, but just someone to just be elite on a level that Pep is not quite at, but that's not, nothing against Pep. We love Pep in the pockets and all that. Like that's still real. But I think if you're looking to improve a spot, because I think there's a chance that there's a DP 9, but if it's me, I'm going for a DP 10 with the last spot because, Ajimong I think is all you need as your number 9, as far as a starter. Now, if they got a DP number 9 that didn't displace Patrick from the starting lineup, then I'd be fine with that. But then again, I start thinking like, well, what are we spending DP spots on? Because that's pretty rare for a DP to like be a full-time bencher. I mean, it's happened before. Dallas had that going with Franco Yara recently and whatnot. So I would say DP 10 to turn Pep into a depth piece, but that's just my personal wish. As far as who would be, if it's not Zaha, who could be like the number 9 backup, the second choice striker, I think it will end up being Toklamati, to be perfectly honest. That's who I think is going to end up in that spot. It may be not right at the start of the season, but by the time we get our groove going in midseason, I think he's the guy that they want it to be. So we'll see if that actually happens.
It's a great question as far as depth right there at the number 9, because you're right. I'll throw out another guy. How about Bram Bronico?
Oh, yes, I should have said that one.
Hey, he scored a goal last season, and we all saw how happy he was. Right. I mean, that's all he wants, man.
Ronnie Cook.
I mean, when we played 4-4-2 at the end of the season, Brant was playing up top with Pat, and he was just a pressing forward in the 4-4-2, and Brant, he would killed it in that position towards the end of the season. He can play there if we decide to go with that formation. And you mentioned some other guys. Just go ahead. What do you? I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be playing in that as far as like being in the box scoring goals, but if Brant could come in late in games and really play in that role, that actually would be pretty strong, because the midfield is going to be tough to get into.
Yeah, the midfield is loaded right now, and we have a player coming back from injury that I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit later, but a second player coming back from injury is Brandon Cambridge, and I consider myself a Brandon Cambridge truther. I think that he has a lot of upside and could definitely press for that backup forward position. We all saw what he did against Chicago Fire 2 years ago with the brace in his debut appearance. I think Cambridge is an underrated player on the roster here.
Cool. I like that idea a lot. I think it's smart because you got to ask yourself, is he on the fringes right now? Like somebody like a Ben Bender, somebody that is young, that really hasn't had a lot of playing time under Dean Smith. Is Dean going to trust him? I don't know. I think, Cambridge for me is somebody that needs to prove he's not on the fringes and get some playing time.
If we're getting contributions from Cambridge, then watch out, because it's like that will be something completely that right now we don't need anything from Cambridge to achieve our goals as a club this season. So if we start getting stuff from him, it's going to be like, all right, that's just bonus.
Well, right. Yeah, and same with Toklamati or Tavares or whoever you are slotting in that backup role.
Totally.
But, I mean, we've all seen coming back from injuries, players don't always come back the same. Cambridge had a nasty leg injury. I mean, it was at least a year of recovery. I think we saw him, I don't know if you guys were at the soccer awards last year, but he was still on crutches, and that was like 6 months after the injury. So it's been a long road back, and players don't always come back the same. We saw with Guzman Corujo, when he came back, he was just a shade of his former self. But if he can come back healthy and active and contribute, like you're saying, Danny, that would be a bonus. That would just be money in the bank at that point.
Shout out Corujo. He's back in North America. After going to Serbia last year, he's back in the Colombian League, Deportivo Cali.
Let's go, man. The Sheriff.
So that brings up another question I have is, you touched on a lot of people's favorite player, my wife's favorite player, Ben Bender. And, Ben obviously got loaned out at the end of the last season to go to Tampa Bay for the Rowdies. And he's back in preseason, going to be traveling to Coachella. I think Cambridge has a higher ceiling than Ben Bender. But I will say this, and obviously I want to get y'all's thoughts on where y'all see him slotting in this team, whether it be a backup 10, a backup behind Leo Labata, or if he's playing a Crown Legacy or gets loaned out regardless. But when he was on the field many, many times, definitely under Christian Latanzio, when he was on the field, man, he scored, or he was at least helping create goals. What do y'all see Ben contributing anyway, or do you think he's going to be kind of sat back down to Crown Legacy or loaned out once again?
I think he's going to get a chance because Dean's keeping him in the first team right now, and he's training with the squad, and Charlotte FC's in 3 competitions: the U.S. Open Cup and Leagues Cup. So maybe he'll get some time because they're in 3 different competitions. that would be best case scenario, I think, for Ben at this point. And I think if he could start in a cup competition, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, get him on the Open Cup side.
Shout out to Bender. He showed up to camp ready to go. Another player, it took him over a year to recover from his injury. When he came back, there just wasn't that spot on the roster. He just wasn't fully, in condition. So shout out to the Tampa Bay Rowdies, American soccer historical club. And, he got a little bit of playing time, I believe, but he showed up to training camp and won the day one performance challenge.
I did think Dean had kind of indicated that maybe he wasn't thrilled with Bender's tenure at the Rowdies because he didn't really force himself into the starting lineup like Charlotte was looking to see happen. So I think the jury's still out on Bender. I think he's another lone candidate for sure this year. Just because he needs to play to get better. And right now there's a lot of competition for spots to play that he's behind some guys, I think, just with the way the setup is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't foresee him, obviously not starting over Pep or Liel or, even obviously Zaha, but even if Vargas, so I was just curious because, like I said, he is a fan favorite by far, and
he'll always be our first draft pick. He will always be the number one overall pick that we had for sure.
Exactly, man. And but one more quick question about the actual depth of this team before we kind of hop into the preview. This is. So, Charlotte loans out Pedro to the Portuguese league. What does that leave Charlotte FC, that backline? We know how great this backline was last season with Nathan Byrne, Adilson Malanda, Andrew Privet, and Yeri Yoronen for the vast majority of the season until Tim Ream came. But you still got Bill Tuiloma, you got Nick Scardina, you got Tim Ream still, but should we add some depth? Who do we need to be looking at, specifically that left back role? That seems to be a hot topic. Who's going to be backing up Tim Ream in that left back role?
It's a good question.
I think the word on the street is that we're yet again building through the draft. And one of the rookies that they drafted in the super draft is impressing in camp and has the potential to lock down that backup left back spot.
I think they're going to try to let Tim Ream just maybe. If I were them anyway, I would let Tim Ream.
Yeah, maybe just clone him. I mean, I don't know who we're going to get, but I do wonder. And Johnny, I always think of defense as one of Johnny's specialties. I just wonder, what's the mentality knowing that it's all on you, and there may not be backup, there may not be reinforcements coming anytime soon, and you better not fuck up or get tired. You got to be ready to go and go and go again. Very fair mentality.
Right. Well, yeah, for sure. No, and not only that, Danny. I mean, I'm just talking about Ream being able to just school up whoever young kid is working with him and training.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of drafting young and I think basically there's an open competition for left back. Let's put it that way.
I feel like we're stretched too thin. We need to bring in somebody, and I think with the MLS deploying a new trade mechanism for intra-team, trading within the league for, some kind of cash value or GAM value, I think that's a way we can kind of supplement that, CB, LB kind of position. Because
somebody.
Yeah, it looks too thin to me. And I think if you bring in somebody with some MLS experience, the same idea as a Bill Tuiloma, although obviously the fan base has some pretty strong opinions on that one. That kind of an idea, though, a veteran, experienced player that can just come in and fill in if we need somebody in a pinch.
There's your answer to the question, by the way, from earlier. It's if they don't get the DP number 10, what do they get? They get a left back. Probably makes the most sense.
It does. I think so as well. And I like.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback on what John just said there, we've heard, it's kind of like a joke if an MLS team uses a DP slot on a defender because it's why are you wasting your time? But in a Dean Smith system with his English, flair, a left back is an attacker, right? I mean, it's in many ways a true left back.
Yeah, and Dean's he's mentioned that multiple times how he thinks the right way to build a team is from the back. So I could see that as well. I did lie a second ago. There was one more position battle I kind of wanted to get y'all's opinion on. I've seen it floated out there that Eric Williamson is going to come in and start over Brant Bronico as a CDM. I personally do not see that. It's obvious that Brant is an absolute workhorse, and every coach, whether it be Miguel Angel Ramirez or Christian Latanzio, Dean Smith, whoever, he's impressed. And it's very difficult to impress three coaches unless there's something there. And I don't foresee Eric Williamson starting over Brent Bronico, but there is a portion of this fan base that does see that.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, we kind of talked about it previously on the last episode, but Bronico's the guy who's winning the performance tests in training camp day in and day out. He is the standard against which all other players are held. So, like you said, he's been starting under three different coaches. And I think with this Williamson trade, people automatically assume, especially outside of the club, that was bringing in to replace Bronico. I also don't see that happening. I do have Williamson in my lineup for opening day, but I think Bronico will start more games throughout the season.
Interesting. Oh, how does he make the opening day lineup? Just because they want to show the new guy they got, or?
Yeah, I think he kind of made a splash. He has a reputation. He's also prone to injury, so I kind of hedging my bet on that a little bit. Odds are, if Bronico doesn't flat out outperform him, which he very well might, Williamson may not be available for a portion of the year, and that's nothing against him. Certainly not wishing that. Just historically, seems to be something that he's struggled with.
Yeah, I mean, he's had surgery to repair both ACLs, so he definitely got something to prove as far as coming back from that.
Well, I mean, they're playing Seattle, right? Week one.
Yes.
And Williamson, he comes from Portland.
Yeah.
Yep. Great call. Great point.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like Eric Williamson is just somebody to sneeze at. I mean, this guy, he's been captain of the United States men's national team. When he has been healthy, he's been very good. And
yeah, sure.
Again,
he's a great pickup. It's low risk.
Yeah, you're coming off of those injuries and stuff. I just don't see him upplanting Brent Bronico at this point in time, personally.
Yeah, and I mean, based on what I said earlier about Bronico's ability to play up top, I don't think you have to think about those two as like for like.
Great call.
Yes, they can play the same position. Brant can play all positions.
Yeah,
except left back.
Except left back.
But I say, ask Christian Latanzio, he'll put him in goal. He'll put him at left back. He'll put.
Left back. By the way, left back is such a specialist position, and the fact that Latanzio thought that Brant could just go back there and play there was just like that was the telltale sign that his way of thinking was just elementary. Like he didn't understand that Brant Bronico couldn't play that position because he's not a left-footed specialist.
I mean,
you either are a left back or you're not.
Yeah, we talked about it on the Charlotte Soccer Show. I think when you guys had me on one time about Latanzio, it just seemed like he was kind of in over his head. Career assistant coach who just wasn't cut out to be the head man, and making the tough calls wasn't quite in his wheelhouse. So he just kept throwing things at the wall to see what stuck. And that's not a recipe for success. As soon as he would find something, whether by accident or intention, that did work, it's like he would just circle back and try something completely different the next game. Like you saw with Brandon Cambridge scoring 2 goals and then immediately getting sent back down to Crown Legacy. I mean,
that's ridiculous.
The one thing, once again, by accident or intention, that did work out in our favor was, of course, Andrew Privet to center back, which was...
Yeah, of course.
Broken clock is right twice a day, I guess. So I think that's pretty locked down, although we could find ourselves in a position by the end of the season, depending on how the transfer windows shake out, where, there's a question about Adilson Malanda possibly heading overseas. Patrick Ajiman's getting attention now. And we just saw a huge signing, Chucho Hernandez from Columbus getting signed by Real Betis for over $16 million. MLS is definitely getting a lot more attention internationally for these players, rising stars, and this is going to become a league that starts to sell a lot more. Do you guys think, I'd say over under 9.5 of the same players by the end of the season in the starting lineup that we have at the beginning?
I'd say under, but just barely. I'd say probably 9. I'd say we end up with 2 different starters for regular starters by the end of the season. Someone new on the back lines and a number 10, like I talked about earlier, I think.
I go under as well. And Luke, now you're getting into the good stuff here as far as like MLS being a league that is on the upswing for sure, and that deal with Cucho is a great example. And I just rewatched The Wire, great show on HBO. You know, it reminded me that like when you're doing a case, you got to follow the money, and this is it always leads back to David Tepper. So
Right.
for me, the interesting part about this is if the club decides to sell on, fine, but what do you do with that money?
Yeah.
That'll be the Tepper test. I hate to say I don't have faith in him spending it, but maybe he will. Maybe some success will this year will give him the soccer itch, and he'll start realizing he can do some big time money deals in global soccer, and maybe he'll have some fun with that.
It brings up
And also, if he really wants to get a rivalry going with Arthur Blank, who just spent 32 million on 2 players, including 22 on Latte Loth, and just shattering the American record signing for any player ever. 22 million. That's insane. And we're sitting here, messing around with in the 3s and 4s millions. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, but that's not, right now, David Tepper, who has fostered a rivalry with that city and everything with Atlanta, he's got some shoes to fill if he wants to keep up on the money end, for sure.
Well, that leads me into another interesting question or conversation, perhaps, about Charlotte FC making some major moves in the offseason in terms of the front office, the structure of the organization, and the money of the organization. It seems like a lot of things have changed. A lot of positions have been eliminated within the org chart, and they seem to be centralizing things with Tepper Sports and Entertainment. What do you feel about the moves that have happened so far, and what does that mean for a fan base that I think we can all agree is among the top in all of MLS?
I think I'm on the record as being a big fan of Joe LeBou, who's not really in charge anymore. I thought he did good things when he was in charge, but ultimately, I think even Joe would say it's about the club. It's not about any individual. So as long as the results on the field are good, I don't think fans are going to have any issue with any of the reorg stuff that's happened. It'll just be kind of corporate speak that doesn't really concern everyday fans. I mean, we're into it because we work with the clubs, right, a little bit closer, and we know some of these people. But ultimately, I think it's all just names on a spreadsheet as far as most fans are concerned. But we'll see. Hopefully, we know that there are more than names on a spreadsheet. I'm not trying to belittle or anything like that. But I'm just saying how it'll be perceived. But yeah, it does seem like some of the soccer people are out and money people are in. We'll see how that affects the on-field product. That's really all that matters, right?
Yeah,
it matters. It matters for sure. I mean, like the money part of it is a huge part of it.
On the field performance matters significantly. I think it's interesting they got rid of the chief fan officer position. From learning more about that, obviously my initial impressions of that position were critical, and the more I learned about it, the tougher a position that seemed to be, because it was more of a game day experience manager, and I think we've all really enjoyed the game day experience that Charlotte FC brings. So I'm curious to see if that changes or how that changes this season. Attendance numbers have been kind of a question. Ticket pricing has been a big question. I don't think they're getting as many season ticket holders carrying over from previous years. So I don't think charging more money is going to help with that. But of course, if the product on the field improves, that is one way to kind of fix that problem.
Yeah, if they're competing for a championship, they should hopefully expect season ticket number sales to go up.
I mean, just real quick, I wanted to kind of get y'all's opinions on the new kit that was leaked. It was leaked at the Charlotte Hornets game, and it's a black kit. The secondary logo on there, the CLTFC. It's a black and silver rendition. What is it? Hercules Gomez always says, was it tripping or dripping? Which one is it?
It's dripped for sure. It looks good. If you want that DP number 10, you get your credit card out and start buying it. Forget what it looks like. They need the cash.
Exactly. It's the kit is fire. I love the secondary crest. You had me at secondary crest, and then all black with some metallic accents. I'm all in. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm being facetious, by the way, about the buying the jersey and signing the DP, but I do think that Charlotte FC fans have made an impact. like on the
For
business
sure.
of the club. And it ties into the last question too about just like the changes in the front office. Is that we've given the club pretty good business, and these
Right.
kits come out, and we continue to buy them, and the season ticket signups are pretty good compared to other MLS clubs. I mean, even though it's not big NFL business, there's a bit of a foundation there, and the club has the fans to thank for it.
Totally
Absolutely.
agree.
For sure. Luke, how you feel about the kit, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one that I'm going to need to see it up closer in person to really have a strong opinion. I think the fundamentals are there.
Did you see the inlay? Did you see like the sewn in pattern of like the tines on a crown? It looked freaking sick, man.
Yeah, I need to like actually get that in front of me in person. I got to get the tactile, experience with it.
I need to see it. You got, show me, don't tell me. Okay.
Yeah, I got to see it. I got to feel it. I got to smell it. Let me get in there and check it out. The Crown Jewel kit was my least favorite. I've been on record. I did not like it. I didn't think it worked. This one, it looks pretty cool. I like the blue accents, the highlight accents on the shoulders. I could do with maybe a little bit more highlighter accent on it, but that's probably nitpicking. I think that inlay design looks pretty freaking cool. So, I'm in. I think it looks great. I really want to see it in person before I, bust out the checkbook for it. But that's just my own
That's fair.
personal
No, I mean,
opinion.
I always use my wife as a litmus test because she's very critical of like soccer kits and stuff, and she hated the Pop Tart kit, and I tend to agree with her. I love the mint kit from the debut season.
Yeah.
Still absolutely the best in my opinion. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Or for the Johnny and Danny, I feel like it's up there. It's upper echelon. I do love the secondary kit or the secondary crest as well. I think that's really dope. Yeah, kicking right along. Charlotte FC last season, they finished with 51 points, 14 wins, 9 draws, 11 losses. National pundits, had Charlotte finishing anywhere from 10th to dead last in the East, which is what seemed to be what they did every season, and Charlotte has outperformed them every season. Now, Charlotte is starting to get some recognition nationally, and Charlotte is starting to get a little bit more hype behind them. So I could see, national pundits picking this team to finish in the top 5. Actually, as a matter of fact, I listened to the Soccer Wise podcast with Goss and Tom Boger, and that they have them in as the top 4 team, as one of the top 4 teams in the East. Guys, I think this team obviously is a playoff team. If Charlotte's not in the playoffs by the end of the season, we're going to have some really big questions for Coach Smith. Fifth is a great place to finish last season. Definitely with it being Dean Smith's first season, how well Christian Kalina and this defense performed, and with Carol, the soap opera that was Carol Swiderski, and was he coming? Was he going? And I think with Pep getting the preseason, Zaha getting the preseason, Liel Abada getting the full preseason, and then obviously Big Pat being the main guy up top, I think this attack is going to be significantly better than it was last year. They had 46 goals for last season, 37 goals against. They had a positive goal differential of 9 for the first time in club history. I want to know, guys, do you think they have a real shot at a supporter shield race for the top seed in the East, up there with the Columbuses and the Miamis?
It's a tough question. I thought you were going to just ask how high they could finish, but then you dive right in and ask, can they win the supporter shield? Right? And that's a good question. I say no. It's because Inter Miami's in the conference, and have you seen their roster? Our roster is good. Theirs is much better.
And Atlanta's in the conference, and they're good. And have you seen their roster now? I
True
mean,
story.
the East is loaded, man. The top of the West was very tough last year, and I think the top of the East is going to be the conference to watch this season.
If Zaha's an MVP candidate, then we're a supporter shield candidate. So, yep.
Yeah. And and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that should be the expectation, because I don't think it should be. To me, a realistic expectation would to be finish top 5 in the East, and I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. That's matching last season or doing better, and I think we have all the tangibles there to do that. And I want to say, I don't think that. I mean, obviously Miami it's what it is. It's Miami. They got to go on there. So other than Miami, Columbus, and I agree with you, Luke. Now, I mean, Atlanta United is going to be a very, very big, tough out for Charlotte FC this season, which Charlotte does open up their home season with Atlanta. It's going to be nationally televised on Fox March 1st, and it's going to be a giveaway night. They're giving out hats to the first, I think it's 1,000 fans in attendance will receive a limited edition Charlotte snapback. So everyone needs to be there because Charlotte is going to need you for that match. But Danny, you say if Zaha's an MVP candidate, then Charlotte can be competing for that supporter shield. Do y'all agree with Danny, or y'all hitting the brakes a little bit?
It's all about minutes played for me. If Zaha can stay healthy, if he can play in a full MLS season, and he can focus on the league, then yeah, he can be MVP. That's the interesting part about this, is because even we talk, Open Cup and Leagues Cup, Zaha does he even have to play in those competitions? Okay, he obviously he can be on the bench, and if he needs to impact the match, you can bring him on. But if you have him focus on the league and say, hey man, why don't you dominate the league this year and circle those dates on your calendar, and that's what, and you're guaranteed those starts. I think that would actually be a pretty good conversation to have with him to get him set for what his rhythm will look like.
Yeah, I would take it in a different direction here. I'd say, we're assuming that the defense is going to look the same as last year, and I do not think that's the case. Last year, the team was built around that defense as the spine of the team, and now we're shifting our focus to attack. I think that's going to leave us open in a lot of ways that last year we're able to circle back and, just pack everybody in the box, and our defense was impenetrable. I think we're going to allow more goals this season. I don't think Zaha is going to get back on defense like Vargas would. I don't think the team is going to look the same formation-wise. So, our defense is still going to be in the top half of the league, I'm sure, but we're not going to be at the elite level that we were last year. That's my hot take. So, can our offense offset that? I think we're going to score a lot more goals. Is that going to translate to more wins? And that could be a question. I don't think we're going to have to hold teams to a shutout and then score one goal to win it. I think we're going to be in more of those like 3-2 games.
Yeah, I mean, that's very conceivable. I mean, Danny, let me ask you this: where would you have this team finishing at the end of this season?
I predict with Inter Miami continuing to age and their age problems getting even worse. I predicted bad things for Miami last year, and I may have been 1 year too early. I'm hoping that those come to fruition this year, and that they crash and burn in the old age and bad knee joints situation. So I think Inter Miami continues to fall into a decline off their playoff loss. Cucho Hernandez is gone. Lucho Acosta is gone. I think Charlotte, I picked them to win the East with Zaha.
There you go. All right, big talk. Mr. Hayes, where do you have them finishing?
Probably top four. I think moving up into the top four. Depends how close the race is, right? I think if there's some parity in the East, I mean, just because if the East is really going to be really good, it doesn't mean that Miami is going to run away with it. Maybe there's a group of 4 teams: Miami, Charlotte, Atlanta, and New York Red Bulls. Maybe those 4 teams are the teams that are at the top of the East. I think I really like those teams coming into this season for sure.
Yeah.
Where you got them finishing?
I'm with Johnny on this one. I got us finishing probably 4th, and if we outperform that, obviously all the better. But with the way the East is looking this year, Miami still being, the Galacticos, and then Atlanta bringing in all the talent, all the money. Red Bull's making moves. Chicago's made some big moves. The East is going to be very competitive. So I got us probably at 4th, and I say if we fail to make a home playoff game this season, I'd be very disappointed. I just look back at season 1 when the leadership kept saying the goal was to make a home playoff game in year 1, and how naive that was. And you look at our squad now versus then, and our current team would demolish that team from the first season. I mean, probably 7-0. It's just a night and day difference. The naivety of expecting a home playoff game in your first year in the league without a built roster, without a coach, and now looking at, we have the coach, we have the system, we have the talent, We have everything that we've kind of put together and built since last year. I really think we're in a great position for that home playoff game. And we've earned it. We've done it the right way.
When you say home playoff game, you're meaning home field advantage, where you get 2 games at
Home
and it
series,
goes
yeah.
best of 3.
Yeah, top 4.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna go with third. I think I tend to agree with Danny a little bit when it comes to Miami. I mean, we've seen how many games Messi missed last season, whether it's precautionary or injury or whatever. And I mean, I still think that they're the team to beat in the East, but I think Orlando City is going to be very good again. I think Atlanta obviously is going to be up there, and I agree with Johnny, man. I think that the Red Bulls have made some big time moves. So let me ask y'all this: I need a MVP from you for this team. Where are you looking? I got a feeling I know where most people's heads are going to go for this, but for this team to go as far as this player carries them, who is that going to be for y'all?
Big Pat.
Johnny?
Big Pat. Yeah.
I'm going to say Zaha. Of intent signing. We'll see how it works out.
And I'll say Christian Kalina. I think it's up to the reigning MLS goalkeeper of the year. I think if we lock down that defense and we outperform my meager expectations, that this team could do something really special with Zaha and Pat on the attack.
Agree, and I'm gonna say Pat as well. I think just Pat with opening up with Zaha and another, like I said, a full preseason with Abada. I think it sets up for Big Pat to have a very, very big year for Charlotte FC. Now, who is y'all's, not comeback player, but kind of like underdog award? Who would you give that to? Who we're not talking about right now, who y'all think is going to be not necessarily, like a golden boot for this team or anything like that, but just be a workhorse day in, day out, and be dependable day in, day out. Who do y'all think that's going to be for this season?
Diani.
Ooh, I like that. Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean he's just the guy. He's your classic midfielder that can just eat up space, and he does it well on defense. He plays in that middle third beautifully, and you can count on him to do the dirty work.
Diani, right? Not Bronico?
No, I think Bronny does that same job for sure. But Diani is somebody that I think is just going to flies under the radar compared to Brand. I think Brand is somebody that's pretty fan forward that people talk about. And we have quite a bit on this pod, but Diani flying under the radar.
Do you think he breaks the starting lineup?
No, I think of course, yeah, for sure. Maybe not in the first couple weeks, or maybe so. You never know. I think Dean has a lot of. Let's see how training goes. Let's see how his preseason game this weekend. Let's see what happens. But he's definitely. What do they say, Danny? Available for selection.
Everyone's available for selection.
I love it, Danny. Who's your underdog?
I think I'm gonna go sort of out on a limb ski and say, give me for that title a name I mentioned earlier, Idan Toklamati. I think he comes out and surprises and sort of shows what he's all about. I really liked how he hit the ground running, albeit in MLS Next Pro, but still pretty nice what he was able to do in terms of coming in and scoring goals immediately. They paid a lot for him, so hopefully they can get some good stuff out of him. I think in a world where we don't go sign a big name to back up Pat, or God forbid, I mean, he's going to challenge Pat, but we want Pat obviously to play the starting striker. But as far as a backup striker to provide some depth, I think we can get 6 to 7 goals out of Idan Toklamati, and he can some big goals that become fan favorite type status. And as John keeps saying, we're in 3 competitions, and we need to manage the minutes. So I think he's a guy who a lot more people will know his name by the end of the season than do right now. So let's put it that way.
Okay, well, I kind of went in a different direction on this, and my pick is Liel Abada. I think the DP that we never discuss.
He's a DP. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you forget that. People forget that he's a DP.
Yeah, man. I just have more history watching him than a lot of the fan base. And when he was with Celtic, he was a special player. He was a guy that you notice on the pitch that did incredible things, and I did not see that except in brief glimpses last season. And I think the addition of Zaha is going to free up a lot of space for him on the wing. And you're going to see what I saw, him slicing and dicing opponents' lines. He could get in horizontal play and just weave his way in and out and create opportunities and take shots. And he can really be that kind of goal contribution number, probably 10 to 20 this season. And that's what I would expect out of Liel Abada. So I think you're going to see him really take off with the Zaha signing. And like we were saying, a full preseason, a chance to gel with the team and get up to peak condition, which I don't think he ever really got to last season.
Plus, he got married.
Also got married. I mean, and he's out of that toxic environment, hopefully settled into the nice, relaxing Charlotte metro area here. Yeah, I think it's all for the better, man. Mazel to Liel.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually go with what Luke said. I think this sets up for a big season for Liel as well, for all the reasons Luke just mentioned. I think that Zaha is a big deal. I just think that Liel has the talent. I truly do. Inconsistent last season. I think we can all agree on that. He would go invisible in games, and then some games he'd come out and he would ball out. But I think obviously with Zaha, I think it bolsters this attack in so many different ways. Just to be different, though, I'll go with it's kind of hard to be an underdog when you just got paid. But I think Kerwin's set up to have a decent season
Kerwin,
as well.
Forgot about him. Yeah, completely forgot about Kerwin Vargas.
Yeah, man. And this was my preseason MVP pick from last year that didn't come to fruition. And I like Kerwin, man. He obviously plays. He's a very emotional guy. We've seen that time and time again. But the talent is there, but the consistency is the same thing with Liel, man. He would just go invisible for long stretches, and getting to be that super sub role off the bench, and then obviously like Johnny's mentioned multiple times, Charlotte is in 3 different competitions this year, and I think Kerwin's going to have a pretty good year if. God forbid something did happen to Zaha, for him to be able to step in and perform at a very high level. Let me ask you guys this. Luke was kind of saying that he likes the Open Cup because it's a local thing, it's grassroots soccer, which I agree with all that. My take on it is that CONCACAF Champions Cup is the premier competition. If, Charlotte FC were to, be a finalist in the Open Cup, win the MLS Cup, Supporter Shield, whatever, and qualify for that Champions Cup position, and it's been made known here recently that the league is going to only allow you to play in 2 competitions. So if you're in the Champions Cup, you can only either play in the Leagues Cup or the Open Cup. Say Charlotte FC wins the league and they're in the Champions Cup next season. What competition would y'all prefer Charlotte to be in outside of that? Would it be Leagues Cup or Open Cup?
I would rather be in the Open Cup and the Champions Cup and leave not the Leagues Cup. The Leagues Cup is okay, but it's got some room to grow.
Well, think about it this way: the Champions Cup is the better version of the Leagues Cup.
Right? Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
So Open
the good Liga MX teams are in Champions Cup.
Yeah. So I think that'd be a great way to do it. I think that's ideal for any MLS club. I think that's why the Leagues Cup maybe could turn into basically it's Europa League of CONCACAF.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I haven't thought about it like that. That's a good way to put it, Johnny.
I wish they would seriously consider that,
Yeah, open it up to more leagues and get some more top teams from across the region involved in that competition that maybe don't make the Champions Cup.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think it could be a good idea.
Now, Cole, we didn't mention it. I don't know if they'd released it yet when we recorded the Champions Cup preview, but they did change the format of the Leagues Cup this year, and my understanding is that we're only going to play Mexican sides to start the competition, and Mexican sides are only going to play American sides. And then at the end of the first round, the top teams from the Mexican side, based on point performance, and the top teams from the American side will go into a knockout bracket. So it's not going to be us playing against other MLS teams in Leagues Cup this year.
Yeah, we did not discuss that. That's interesting, though. I mean, again, I like Johnny's idea. To be honest with you, I think that's a really, really good idea. I have not thought about that at all. Johnny and Danny, do y'all follow the Champions Cup?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really fun because it coincides with the start of the season. It's interesting to me in that way. I've always really wanted Charlotte to make it so we could start our season that way
Yeah.
with some juice right out of the gate. Whether the MLS league schedule changes, obviously that will change that feeling. But for me, yeah, I'd love to watch it to start the season.
Well, it kicks off tomorrow from when we're recording this on Monday night. Our friends Cruz Azul open against Real Hope.
Yeah, I like seeing the atmospheres and pitches and environments from some of the smaller North American nations as well, just because it's something different and pretty cool.
If Charlotte FC was to make it to the Champions Cup, that obviously means that they would have qualified for it. And we talked about it on our last show, all the different ways that you can qualify, which would make this a very good season for Charlotte FC, to say the least. Before we get you guys out of here, tell people where they can find you.
You can find us on Blue Sky and Threads. That's our best platforms for sure. Obviously YouTube too, and X. We're all over the place. Instagram, Charlotte Soccer Show, For the Crown Baby, Soccer City, Substack. Where aren't we, Danny?
We're everywhere. We got so many different aliases. I would say my pitch is always I want as many people to watch us on YouTube as possible, because that's where we put not only the show but also where we publish videos that we would edit from the press conferences and things like that and happenings. So that's always my favorite place. We do post those as reels and stuff like that, but YouTube is the platform that I would say. If you want to help us out and hook yourself up for our best Charlotte Soccer Show stuff, it's YouTube.
Yeah, how far do you want to go down the Charlotte Soccer Show rabbit hole? That's your choice.
Right.
The best podcast, I always say it, the best Charlotte FC podcast, Charlotte Soccer Show. Check them out, give them a like, subscribe.
Well, that's awesome.
They're the boys.
Thanks for having us on. Yeah, I love what you guys do too. I mean, it's awesome chatting footy with you. And
yeah, exactly.
I'm
hyped up more for the season now, just having had this conversation, basically. So it's
me
great.
too.
Hell yeah. I love it. Hey, that's the Charlotte Soccer Show. We are the Queen City Soccer Show. You can find us on social media at QCS Pod, and we're on, X, Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all that jazz. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe. Make sure to give them a like and subscribe. And guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I think we can all say it together. It's always
For the Crown Baby.
For the Crown Baby.